guys couldn't have had a better Chamber of Commerce day in reference to the weather. It is really beautiful. We got one of our key citizens of the city here with us. We are going to hear from the Wall Street Band, and then we will get into the program this morning. Again, thank you all for coming out to celebrate what we hope to be a historical day in the city of Tulsa.
Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till is one.
Again, my name is Ron Busby, and I'm the president and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C. We were founded in 2009. I like to tell this story a little bit about my background as I grew up in Oakland, California, and I had the opportunity to, like a lot of young people, have both a mother and a father that lived with me. And my mother was an educator, she was a school teacher, as well as a minister. So I say I'm well educated and I know my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Come on.
But hold on. Because I also had a father. And my father was an entrepreneur as well as a member of the Black Panther Party. So I say I'm about my business and I don't take no shit.
Come on.
Again, we founded the U.S. Black Chamber in 2009, right after the election of then President Barack Obama. And when we did, we had 6 black chambers. Today we represent over 151 black chambers located in 43 states now, and have a membership base of over 300,000 black-owned businesses.
Come on.
That goes to the attestment of what is happening in America. That when we collectively come together and stand on beliefs that we could all agree to, the movement of a black economic agenda can be had. We were founded on what we call our 5 key pillars. The first one is advocacy. Because you see, it is really about creating an economic agenda in Washington, D.C. that creates policy that will help us move a black economy forward. Our second one is access to capital. And when you talk to any small business owner, they will say their number 1 concern is access to capital. But when you talk to a black business owner, they will say their number 1, number 2, and number 3 top concerns is access to affordable and available capital. Our third one is really around contracting opportunities, and we are really excited about what we're about to lay out. You've heard a great deal about the infrastructure bill that's being passed in Washington, D.C., but understand there are contracts being awarded each and every day. The federal government spends over $900 billion, and we are excited about our participation with both minority, women, and particularly black-owned firms to have our fair share in that economy. Just last week, the President of the United States laid out an agenda where they were going to increase the spend, which made the announcement here in Tulsa just June 1st of 2020, where he and the Vice President laid out an agenda where he said he was going to increase their spend with minority firms from 5% to 15%. We're very excited about participating in that, and more importantly, showing you and your businesses as well as your communities around this country how we can get our fair share of that. But when we usually talk about contracting with federal governments as well as corporate America, they say, well, Ron, we do more business with minority firms, but there are 2 challenges. The first one, we can't find them. And the second one is access and size and scale. And so the U.S. Black Chamber created what we call our Buy Black app. BYBLACK, that you can find black-owned businesses across the country. If you're a black-owned business owned 51% or more by an African-American, you can be certified free of charge so that corporate America can find you, so that other consumers can find your products, and more importantly, the federal government can help meet its goal of 15% by making sure that we can find your firms. You hear a lot about African Americans saying that we have $1 trillion of spend power. But usually that's not us having that conversation. That's usually someone from outside of our community saying, hey, black consumers have $1 trillion of spend power. How can we market to them? We are going to change the conversation to say we as a collective across the country have $1 trillion. How can we keep that in our community to make sure that our communities have the sustainability to move into the future? Fourth one is around entrepreneurial training. You heard a great deal last year about black consumers, black businesses losing 41% of their black-owned businesses. And when we surveyed our businesses that closed, we found a couple of things of interest. One, the resilience of black firms. 72% of black firms that closed once reopened. 18% of those that closed opened a second time. They opened, they closed, they had issues, they reopened. And 10% of firms, black firms are owned across the country, closed a third time and still reopened. We have a resiliency in our community, and we need to make sure that the businesses, both owned by women and people of color, have the information. When we surveyed their businesses, 70% of them said that the reason that they closed was lack of information. Today's announcement in partnership between the U.S. Black Chamber, the Greenwood Black Chamber, and the U.S. Small Business Administration will allow us to make sure that our businesses, both owned by people of color and women, have the information that they need to be able to have sustainability to grow their communities as well as their businesses. This is not my first visit here. This is really my third time here. The first visit I was here when Bloomberg made his announcement of running for presidency, and it was made right here in this building. And I learned a great deal about the city of Tulsa, about its history. We all know a lot about the massacre of Tulsa, but we don't know about some of the resilience of some of the families that were here. And John Rogers, who you will hear from, has a unique story. You see his grandfather owned one of the hotels that was here that was burned down to the ground. But to hear the success that he has, his family has, is one that this America sees when they look at black and minority-owned businesses across the country. You'll hear from him. I had the chance to visit your museum here, and I learned, just like John Rogers, shortly after this city was burned down, it reopened immediately. That's a story that people don't hear around this country about the resilience of this community. And through this collaboration between our organizations, we hope and we ensure that this community will continue to move forward. My second visit here was then when President Biden and Vice President Harris came here and made the commitment to doing more business. We were extremely pleased to hear that announcement. Last week, the U.S. Black Chamber has been talking about three things in reference to what we were looking for from both federal government as well as corporate America. The first one being intentionality. We wanted to make sure that when issues and policies were being created, that we had the ability to say what impact that was having on minority communities particularly. And we found that when the information was shared, that 1.76% of the federal government contracting spend goes to black firms. A lot of folk were disappointed in that, and we are as well, but the opportunity to increase that over the next year is there. Our second one is really about transparency, and to be able to showcase where we are as a country in reference to minority spend is one that we are really proud of, and most importantly, the last one being accountability. Because now that we know what we're spending, we can talk about how we move this country forward. And so this being my third visit here, I'm really excited to see a full circle. We've talked about the issues, we've talked about the opportunities, and now to be able to be here to share with you the real layout and the ribbon cutting of what the U.S. Black Chamber is really about, I think is something that we all can be excited about. Now, I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to invite some really unique individuals to the stage. A very good friend of mine is here representing the Small Business Administration out of Washington, D.C. The reason that I say she's a very good friend because not only is she running the Women's Business Centers for the SBA out of Washington, but she started off as a Chamber of Commerce president, a Black Chamber of Commerce president out of Texas, which has a very similar makeup to what you have here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My good friend, Natalie Cofield.
Good morning, Tulsa, and more specifically, good morning, Greenwood. As Ron just mentioned, my name is Natalie Madeira Cofield, and I have the honor of serving as the Assistant Administrator at the U.S. Small Business Administration, leading the Office of Women's Business Ownership. And what does that mean? That means that in this particular role, in this particular administration, and in this particular moment in time, we are making history every day. And how are we doing that? Our office funds across the country 140 women's business centers, representing the complete diversity of what makes up the United States of America. From our Navajo Nation Women's Business Centers, to our New York City Women's Business Centers, to our centers, as you are about to experience now here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The mission and mandate of this office, which was established in 1979, is to ensure that women have an equitable seat at the table, and that's what we're doing. Not only are we doing that with rapid expansion, understanding that women business owners need and deserve resources, supports, access to contracts, and communities, but we're also doing that with funding. This office has deployed over the last year more than $70 million in direct grants to nonprofit organizations across the country to continue to amplify and support and make possible the establishment of women's business centers across this nation. And in total, every year we work with nearly 80,000 women who are doing everything from starting businesses on their kitchen tables to hopefully establishing the next Fortune 500 business. We believe in all of them. And through the leadership that we are partnered with through our resource partners and the leadership in this room, we know all is possible. I want to share a few things that are happening both from the perspective of our office and the administrator, the 27th administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Isabella Guzman, who is the highest ranking Latina in the Biden-Harris cabinet, which is significant in and of itself, leading the deployment of more than $1.2 trillion in funding and resources to support American small businesses. And I'd like to just say that this deployment of resources from SBA has grown significantly over the course of the last year. Our office, our agency, has grown from roughly $44 billion in funds to more than $1.2 trillion deployed to American businesses, both through disaster recovery and through our everyday products that we offer 365 days a year through the amazing leadership of our district office team. But also, this administrator just yesterday made the national commitment to elevate the Office of Women's Business Ownership to her office, to report directly to the administrator and to have a seat in the office of the administrator. Now this is significant, and this in and of itself is historic. And why are we doing this? We're doing this because women are the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment in this nation, with nearly 1,200 businesses started by women in this country every single day. What greater a time where we've seen the ramifications that COVID-19 has had on women, which have disproportionately impacted women, women's place in the labor force, and women's access to economic opportunities, than to give women a direct seat at the table, to raise to the immediacy the challenges, issues, concerns, and great opportunities that exist for us to the ear of the administrator, who in turn has the ear of the President of the United States of America. This office deserved to have a seat at that table, and it now does. And we're proud of the history that we're making every single day for women across this country. As you heard Ron mention, when the president was here in June, he made another historic announcement, and that was to increase the federal contracting spend from 10 to 15%, which represents $100 billion in federal spending opportunity made more readily available to small and disadvantaged businesses across this country. That includes women, that includes rural, that includes minority, that includes small and disadvantaged businesses. And so it was on the heels of the president's announcement here in Tulsa that we had the opportunity to put women first. And we're doing so today with the establishment of the Greenwood Women's Business Center.
All right.
When the president first took office, he signed 2 executive orders. I don't know if you all recall that big stack of papers that he was signing when he first sat in the Oval Office. But 2 of those big stacks were, 1, the Gender Equity Executive Order, which has challenged all federal agencies to ensure that we are looking at the ways in which our services, our programs, and our offerings are reaching the American public, and doing so from an equitable perspective to ensure women, again, have a seat at the table. The president reestablished the Gender Policy Council, which for the first time in history created and released last month a national gender equity strategy for the United States of America government. This is history, it is important. The president also signed an executive order on racial equity. And in this executive order, signed on January 20th, not today in anticipation of me being able to come down and share this good news, but on his first day in office, when it was most important to him, which also challenged federal agencies to take a look at how they delivered and deployed services. I'm honored to chair both of those task forces for the Small Business Administration. As you've heard from Ron, I have been on the other side of this equation. I know what it feels like to run a chamber. I know what it feels like to be a woman entrepreneur. I know what it feels like to run a national women's organization. I've been there, and I see myself reflected in all of you. I hope that as you all continue to experience the Biden-Harris administration, that you feel that you see yourself reflected in the diversity and breadth and scope and scale of what this administration is bringing to communities across this nation. And with that, thank you so much on behalf of Administrator Guzman, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the President of the United States of America.
When I started, I said the U.S. Black Chamber was based on 5 key pillars: advocacy, access to capital, contracting, entrepreneurial training, and lastly, chamber development. We would not be here without the strength and the participation of our over 150 black chambers around the country. Today, we really are excited about the partnership that we've created, not just with the Small Business Administration out of Washington, D.C., not with just the Small Business Administration here in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, but also the relationship that we have with our local Chamber of Commerce, the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to introduce you now to Freeman Colvin, the President and CEO of the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Ron, and we really appreciate the relationship that we've been making together, and the best is yet to come. And let's thank Natalie for coming here on a busy schedule to come meet, not just be for this moment, but to meet this community. I just have to thank you, Natalie. We're going to make you proud with this Women's Business Center. We're going to make you proud. We're going to grow businesses. 80% of our businesses right here on Greenwood, those 2 chamber buildings, 80% are led by women. Isn't that great? And those women, we're talking roughly close to 30 businesses, generate more than $5 million back into Tulsa's economy. And when they need access to capital, right now they go to people like Ms. Rose Washington. She's sitting here. And I want to acknowledge her for being here today. Right now, when they need access to capital, they go to people like her, who's very significant in us taking this to the next level. Because I will tell you this, in the 100 years since what happened here in 1921, not many things have impressed me. But when the Tulsa Chamber announced her as the first African American female chair of the Tulsa Chamber. That made me smile, and I think we should acknowledge that. But get back to this Greenwood Women's Business Center. We have gave you a snapshot of what the Women's Business Center will look like. It will be in the historic Greenwood Chamber buildings. After this reception, if you see me or Mr. Larry, raise your hand. Mr. Larry Tees, do we stand up, sir? You see him, you can come tour with phase 1 of the Women's Business Center. We're dedicating 5,000 square feet for this Women's Business Center, but phase 2 will be 15,000 square feet of space and opportunity for women to grow Tulsa, to grow Oklahoma, to grow this Midwest region. Another thing I would like to tell you is, since me and my wife, I hate to pick on her, but will you please stand, my wife, LaRonda? I'm a pastor, I have to acknowledge my wife. Since we've been at this, and I'm glad that you shared that you led the chamber, since we've been at this, it took us a while to see results, right? We've raised over $3 million for this community in 2 years, and we're glad of that. And the best is yet to come. But this is what's going on. My 2 little girls are now asking my wife, Mommy, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? I want to be like those women on Greenwood. They don't say they want to be like Daddy, right? But they say, I want to be like Miss Gina, right? I want to be like Dr. Patricia or LaToya Rose or Miss Angela. We got 2 Angelas now. I want to be like those women right there on Greenwood. Well, you know what? I want my daughter to be successful. That's why we're working with people like Ron. Natalie's come here to really invest, the SBA. We have to make this happen, okay? And so what I need for everyone in this room, thank you for coming today for this press conference. I need for you to come to our next grand opening, March 2022, 121 North Greenwood, the 2nd floor of the Greenwood Chamber Buildings. I need you to see what we're doing. We're making this reality. If you know anything about me, I keep my word. This is going to be one of the best things that ever happened to this community. The last thing I want to talk about is to honor women like Rose Washington and Leela Foley Davis, Claire Lupel, and all these women has done a lot for this state, this community. We're going to have a winter gala this Saturday, and we want to invite you to that. And Congressman Hearn, his office, Adam Jones, he's representing Congressman Hearn's office. We raise your hand. They know that we're doing serious business here. And so they have sent a commendation, and I want to read it. And it states, a certificate of special congressional recognition from the office of Kevin Hearn, presented to the Greenwood Women's Business Center in recognition of outstanding and invaluable service to the community. Signed by our Congressman, Kevin Hearn. This business center for women is for real. If we're going to ever bounce back from the historic trauma that happened 100 years ago, women have to lead us, and they have to take us to the promised land. And I'm going to follow them. In Jesus' name.
You can tell he's a preacher and you can tell he's married. I wanted to show a video of one of your citizens, one of your residents. Many of you may not know who he is, but I hope after this video you will be introduced to a man that I know and respect greatly, Mr. John Rogers, President of Aerial Capital.
Again, Mr. John Rogers, thank you again for doing this for us. Can you share the importance of programs like this to support the growth of small businesses, particularly women-owned businesses?
Well, we think it's extraordinarily important in our society to make sure that we're taking advantage of all the extraordinary entrepreneurs throughout our nation. You know, it's just kind of crazy, the dynamic women-owned firms and African-American-owned firms have not been able to fully participate in our capitalist democracy. And it's cost our GDP trillions of dollars and will continue to cost the growth in our economy by over $1 trillion over the next 5 years. It's a huge miss. As Reverend Jackson always says, baseball became a better sport once Jackie Robinson started to play. And you brought in Ernie Banks and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and all those extraordinarily talented players that made Major League Baseball stronger. If we include all of our diverse entrepreneurs in our society, our country will be stronger, our local communities will be stronger, and we'll be able to build multi-generational wealth in minority communities.
Thank you. Mr. John, your family roots are here in Tulsa as part of the Greenwood Black Wall Street district. What does it mean to have new investments here to help restore Greenwood Black Wall Street minority and women-led businesses right here on Greenwood?
Well, as we know, before the Tulsa Race Massacre, we had this extraordinary community in Tulsa. Folks like my great-grandfather, J.B. Stratford, not only built the largest Black-owned hotel in the country, but he worked with Black contractors and Black lawyers and Black accountants. All of the different professions, all the different suppliers he utilized were African-American. And that was kind of the spirit of those entrepreneurs and those leaders of that day, that you could really build real true wealth by working with each other and supporting each other. So if we could bring back that kind of spirit and opportunity to Tulsa, it would be unbelievably powerful for the community to be able to have a whole host of extraordinary entrepreneurs that make the Black Enterprise list of top 100 companies each year. And we'd be able to create role models for next generation business leaders and be able to show the white leadership what we can do when we're unencumbered and given real opportunity to fully participate in our capitalist democracy. So Tulsa would be stronger. We would have multi-generational wealth created. We would have better healthcare, better schools for our community, better housing for our community in Tulsa. It would be just this virtuous circle of real opportunity that would change Tulsa forever.
Lastly, how do you view the role of ongoing investment and support from corporate, private, and government business interests to sustain projects like this Greenwood Women's Business Center and others in the community?
Well, I think that's a good start from our wealthy business community leaders and the corporations that are philanthropic and the various nonprofits and foundations that care about our communities, that are supporting women entrepreneurs and Black entrepreneurs. That's extremely important. But we not only need access to mentorship and access to capital and access to opportunity, but we also need access to customers. And that's the one thing I would challenge the Tulsa business leadership to understand, that we can't build multi-generational wealth if your universities, your hospitals, your museums, and your large corporations continue to do the primary amount of their business with white, male-dominated companies. It's a problem here in Chicago. It's a problem in New York. For some reason, people don't realize how important access to customers are. And we want to have customers outside of the traditional just supply chain and construction. Those are important businesses for us. But we also have the right to be the investment banker, or the lawyer, or the accountant for those anchor institutions in Tulsa, and create technology opportunities for our businesses with those anchor institutions. So we want to be included in everything, and we want to have the opportunity to do business with all the major institutions in Tulsa. That's the real challenge for the future.
Well, thank you again for doing this, and we look forward to working with you and sharing some of our success stories with you, and just letting you know what impact this Greenwood Women's Business Center is having in our Greenwood and Black Wall Street community.
Well, I would just add, this is a great thing that you guys are doing. I know my late mom would be very proud. She made sure that I grew up on Greenwood Avenue in Chicago, which is a very vibrant street in the Hyde Park, North Kenwood, Oakland community of Chicago. She'd be so proud that President Obama's home in Chicago is on Greenwood Avenue. And who could have ever dreamed that one day our first historic Black president and his wife, Michelle, the First Lady, would live on Greenwood Avenue in Chicago. So Greenwood is so important to us, and it's so much a part of our heart here in Chicago. And we feel a certain brotherhood and sisterhood with the Tulsa business community. So thank you.
And so again, for that, we say thank you to Tulsa for allowing his family to grow up here. And as I stated before, they actually moved back before his family ultimately landed in Chicago. Well, these types of events can't happen solely on federal government. We'd like to talk a lot about public-private partnerships, about where federal government ends, corporate America steps in. And in this case, we had one of our corporate partners who also saw the importance of a Tulsa Center, a women's business center, and like the SBA, we brought along Facebook to invest in your community and into this center. And so we also have a video from Facebook to talk about their feelings and their commitment to this community.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Dukas with Facebook and our new parent company, Meta. First and foremost, thank you so much to the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce, to Ron Busby, president of the U.S. Black Chambers, and the U.S. Small Business Administration's Natalie Cofield for the opportunity to join you at this ribbon cutting ceremony for the U.S. Black Chamber's first Women's Business Center on the historic Black Wall Street. I am so very honored to be here and sharing this with U.S. Representative Kevin Hearn and John Rogers of Ariel Investments. My role at Meta is to connect the products, trainings, programs, and support resources that we create to small businesses of all shapes and sizes all over the country so that they can use these tools to create, build, and grow their businesses online. Supporting small business is not only core to what we do at Meta, but it is also the fabric of the American economy, ensuring that it is robust and full of opportunities. We also know something even more important about small businesses, that they are the embodiment of the community that they serve, and there is perhaps no better representation of that than here on Black Wall Street, and supported by the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the continued investment in this very important history of the community, which ensures ingenuity, entrepreneurship, and the opportunity to create a flourishing business remains crucial. And that is exactly why it is so critical that these support resources, like the ones that this new Women's Business Center will provide, especially with a leader like the U.S. Black Chambers. And it's even more so needed as we're moving out of the pandemic. We know that there are persistent challenges that disadvantaged communities such as Black and Latinx owned businesses have historically faced. And we at Meta have also designed and tailored our efforts to support these communities. Last summer, the company gave $100 million to Black-owned businesses, creators, nonprofits, with a carve out of $40 million specifically dedicated for Black small businesses. And this year, through Reimagine Main Street, a partnership with the U.S. Black Chamber and other organizations, we've worked to get additional grant money into the hands of Black entrepreneurs to build their business. We also set a goal for ourselves to reach 1 million Black and 1 million Latinx and Hispanic small businesses through trainings, and we've been able to meet that in just a year. This is a partnership through our Meta Elevate program. And during the 2020 and 2021 holiday season, we launched our Buy Black Friday campaign, which is a training and support program that encouraged consumers from across the country to buy Black during the holiday season. But we haven't stopped there. We continue to have conversations with small businesses and organizations like yours across the country about the support that our small businesses really need. And in response, what we've heard time and time again is that they need access to capital and support resources. So earlier this fall, we announced a new innovative program that helps eligible small businesses get the cash that they need, called Invoice Fast Track. The program is designed specifically to get suppliers paid more quickly. We know that it can take 60, 90, 120 days for suppliers to have their invoice paid, and we wanted to make sure to help lessen that burden. Essentially, Meta purchases the invoices from diverse suppliers for a low fixed fee. We make no money off of that. The fee just covers the transaction. And we ensure that that money, that the supplier is paid immediately, that they can use that money to pay bills, rent, pay their employees. Meta owns that invoice and is paid back directly from the supplier's client. So instead of waiting on customers to pay their invoices through our Facebook Fast Track program, we provide businesses with the funds they need to stay afloat. We are very proud, I will say, to say that we expanded the program in October, and we've already funded $6 million in diverse-owned small business invoices. Additionally, we want to help be a connecting platform so consumers and businesses can find one another and also get the information they need. And so we created a new funding portal to share information and guidance on where and how to apply for small business grant and loan opportunities. Our initial funding partners are mission-driven organizations focused on providing resources to owners from underserved communities that often face systemic barriers that limit their access to capital. Much of the work that we do is because of the partnerships we have with organizations like yours, and that we are here to make sure that we understand how to best show up for the small business community. This requires partnership from all of us, private, public, the nonprofit sectors alike, to come together, which is exactly what this Women's Best Business Center represents. I'm going to take that one more time. This requires partnership from all of us, private, public, and nonprofit sectors alike, to come together, which is exactly what this Women's Business Center represents. I hope that other corporations and organizations will join us in supporting efforts like this. Thank you again for this initiative, the ongoing partnership, and we look forward to working with you and supporting this center.
We all do it. I say I'm like a guest preacher. You know, I get to come to your church, say what the main preacher can't say, and then leave. It's usually us. But that main preacher got to stay around to make sure that you continually get fed, that you continually walk in good faith and in the right direction. So with that, we partner with the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce to make sure that our relationship is strong. I always say in Washington, D.C., I'm only as strong as my weakest chamber. And so with that in mind, we make sure that we're giving the resources and most importantly, the partnerships to continue to grow Black businesses across the country. And with that, I'd like to bring up our partner here locally, the SBA, the District Director of the Oklahoma SBA District Office, John Beal.
Good morning. This is a great day for Tulsa.
Yes.
It's a great day for Oklahoma. Can you hear me? This is a great day for Oklahoma. You know, as I was preparing my remarks, I remember the first time Rose and I were at an event, and this is back in 2005. And we both were receiving an award from SBA for being champions. I think Rose was the minority champion, I was the veterans champion. So they called my name to come up to get my award. My wife looked at me being a new relationship, she says, honey, kiss. So I'm all happy, I lean over and I give her a kiss. And she said, honey, that's nice, but that's not what I meant. I said, maybe you said kiss, so I gave you a kiss. She says, no, I want you to keep it short and special. And that's what I'm gonna do this morning. Today marks a very important expansion in access to service to women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. It's a moment that's been long overdue. The importance of this is highlighted by Natalie's attendance. Natalie, I want to thank you for coming to Oklahoma, and please come back any other time. But how important is this? Well, my leadership team came up. I want to recognize our Deputy District Director, Fernanda Fajardo-Schmidt. She's here with me. She's actually here to keep me out of trouble, but you know. So what does the center mean? Well, first of all, to help increase opportunities and recovery solutions for women entrepreneurs throughout Metro Tulsa, but also Northeast Oklahoma. We haven't had this presence in Northeast Oklahoma. We've had small presence back and forth, but never a dedicated center. And this is the first time this has happened, so it's a very amazing thing. In addition, this center also expands our reach. We have this commitment to help entrepreneurs grow, expand, start up, and recover from disasters. But by having the center in Tulsa, our arms has definitely extended, and we're able to provide these services. This adds to our already existing network of the small business development centers, the SCORE chapters, and also the REI Women's Business Center out of Durant. But also a very local presence, a local partner that we have is TEDC, the Tulsa Economic Development Center. What you may not realize is over the course of the last year, this center has impacted over $60 million, am I right, Rose? Something like that? That's a lot of dollars in the Tulsa community alone. And so, but even before the pandemic came along, TDC was very much involved in what was going on through the Market Lender program and the 504 program. So what I'm saying is, from our perspective, we're looking forward to being a partner with this center, helping the center execute its mission in the Tulsa area and help it be successful. And that can only be done through your involvement. With that, I'm happy to be here, and anything this center needs for success from my office, we're committed to make that happen. Thank you very much.
So there's a lot of data, and I'm usually a pretty good guy when it comes to data. I'm going to repeat some of it because I really do believe it needs to be repeated. Over the last 2 years, women-owned businesses have increased for multiple and very important reasons. Many women have started their own businesses in order to break free from social constraints and to take control of their lives in times during uncertainties of the pandemic as well as employment. However, this isn't the complete story. Within the last 20 years, statistics have shown that the number of women business owners have increased by 114%. Today's excitement will continue into the committed actions. USBC is now committed to slate to begin the facility of the infrastructure that you've heard us talk about of opening the new building. We're going to ask you to join us momentarily right next door as we do the ribbon cutting for the center. There's a famous African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. We are in a community, and I believe Tulsa's Women Business Center can go far, very far, when we all work together. So I invite you to support us, partner with us, either right here in the trenches of North Greenwood Avenue or in the boardrooms, supporting ongoing investments to keep the work going. We thank the SBA for this opportunity as we now join us and Tulsa leaders in healing the lingering effects of a horrific past attack on black business, and now ultimately supporting all women-owned businesses for a more prosperous future. I look forward to working with all of you very soon. I'll end with this statement. In Washington, D.C., over the last 5.5 years, we've heard a lot about making America great again. And we, as minority communities and citizens around the country, say we want America to be great as well. But in order for there to be a great America, there must be a great black America.
Come on.
And in order for there to be a great black America, there must be great black businesses.
Come on.
And in order for there to be great black businesses, we need your support.
Yes.
We need your commitment to both minority, women, and black-owned businesses. That's how we move our collective issues, our country forward. And with that, at the end of the day, we'll all say, thank you so much. Again, thank you for coming out this morning. Thank you for participating. Again, thank you to the SBA, locally as well as nationally. And thank you to the Greenwood Black Chamber of Commerce. And thank you to all of you for participating in this ceremonious opportunity.
Yeah.